With the latest update of 1.17.30 hitting, we have something new we can do in a farm we made previously to fix. And that change is located over here at the woodcutter's shop, and that is the moss farm that we plugged in underneath. And while this thing served its purpose, and I think technically like it still kind of functions, it's not extremely reliable anymore. What we need to do is we're going to need to do a demolition job to this thing. We're going to need to tear the whole thing out because I have something a lot better. I've done a little bit of testing in creative mode, and I have a moss farm that will not only get you a ton of moss really fast, it can also make up to 2.5 bone meal for every 1 bone meal spent. So it is a super crazy effective bone meal farm too. Okay, so I've dug out quite a large area in here because this thing, it's not small. Most of my designs of things I try to make pretty small, and this one doesn't really fit that bill, but it is very efficient, and I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. It has a little bit more redstone to it, but none of it is really overly complex, and I'll make sure that I explain it well. Now, the moss that you see right there is actually representing where our floor of this farm is going to be in terms of like where the moss production is happening. We're going to need about 3 blocks underneath. I gave myself a little bit extra room. And then more specifically, you need to make sure you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks above it. That way you have room to do some redstone bits up top, and I'll explain those here in a little bit. Also, let me lay out the floor. It's going to go around here, and you can see how much space we need around it, and I'm going to end up needing to cut some space over into that direction too, which I'll show in just a moment. Now, moss can grow 3 blocks out in each direction on Bedrock Edition. We'll go out 1, 2, 3, and we'll do that on all sides. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill in everything except for the edge. The one little corner block we're not going to fill in because the moss will not touch that block. There's no need to put in anything there, although technically it will fill in here. It's on its own once we start the farm. You'll see why in terms of setup, why it's important we don't fill that in right now. Okay, now on the side opposite of where our pistons are going to be pushing, and I'm going to have pistons like a stone generator pushing stone in from that direction, moving this way. We're going to go ahead and place an obsidian here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there. So 7 total obsidian, just like that. Now we're actually going to go ahead and just border the rest of this area in just like this. And some of these blocks, a couple of them will end up taking out before we actually kick this farm on. But for now, these will do the trick. And we're going to create a further border by coming up like this. We're just going to kind of like square the area off, right? We're just going to go a little something like this, a little something like that, and like that. And then we could go ahead, we could fill in these blocks back here. And then really, if you want to save on space, you can fill in these little corners right here would be fine too. Now after that, we're going to actually drop down to underneath the farm area, and everywhere where we have just the regular stone, plus that little center part right there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill in with a solid block of any type there too. And this is just going to keep moss blocks from glitching down through the ground and causing any type of loss to the farm. And then after that, we're going to actually place another block right here, and we're going to trace around that 1 block down because we're going to be running a mine cart on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over, and we're going to go into these little corners like this, up, and then pull it over again, into the corner, and around. That way you have one single track that can go all the way around. We're going to end up replacing some of these blocks too, but for now, this is just going to help you figure out where everything's going to go. And now we're going to go ahead and actually just set up our rail system now. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to pick this side. It doesn't matter too much, but this side where our stone generator is going to go, I'm going to start over here. I'm going to put down a single block of redstone here, and I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those rails. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Single piece of redstone right in the middle, or redstone block, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rails like that. And then before I put in these side rails, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock out 1, 2, 3, like this whole side basically. And then I want a hopper to like face towards the middle. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That way I can face 1 hopper in this way. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Now I have one big circular track. Now I'm not chunk aligning this because I really don't have this problem, but if you do have such a problem with minecarts disappearing, you may want to chunk align this farm so it sits within one chunk. That way your hopper minecart that you're going to have going circles here doesn't disappear. Again, I rarely have that problem on my server, I guess because we have a pretty solid connection here. So I'm not really too worried about it. I can come by, every so often to check the minecart. Now, this is where I need you to help me conduct an experiment. First of all, usually about 50% to 60% of people that watch my videos are not subscribed. This is typical for YouTube. Let's break a subscriber record. Go ahead, click that subscribe button on the channel right now. How many can we get at this very point in time? I'm going to make sure I go back and check. Number two, if you'd like to support the channel, best way you can do it, click the like button on the video and click the share button on the video as well. Those two things help a lot. How many likes can we get? Can we get 100? Can we get 300? Can we get 500? I have no clue, but you can help out either way. So make sure you click that like button. And then at the end of the video, make sure you drop me a comment. So we can come back up top now. And then these ones that go across here. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those blocks right there. Since this is the direction that our stone generator is going to be pushing items to, this is going to end up getting filled in with stone and changed into moss. And we're going to talk about the moss conversion here in a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and change those to stone blocks there. And then also, I'm going to need to get these out the way in just a few moments anyways. So I'm going to knock those out of the way too. Now I'm going to show you where you're going to put another moss block that's going to convert everything over. And we're going to talk about a couple mechanics with that. What we're going to do is we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the fifth block is going to be a moss block. This is as high as you could put a block and have that block actually like stretch down to here to bone meal everything. So I should be able to give an example. I think I have some bone meal in here. And if I were to bone meal this block, what you're going to see is it's going to spread moss down below. It can reach down up to those 4 blocks down to spread the moss. Okay, so now let's talk mechanics a little bit, because me going over these is going to make it a little bit easier for you to understand why we're doing some of the things that we're going to be doing later. So if you have any blocks either at this highest level, which is technically 5 blocks above the ground right here, these will block moss from growing here. If you have any blocks at the 6 block up location, it will also block stuff from being bone mealed up there. But if you have any at the 7th block up location, which is what we're going to be using here and why we had to make this thing so tall, it will not. So it's actually going to save us a little bit on, or a decent amount on, efficiency of our farm. Because I want you to see, if I take this bone meal and I bone meal this right here, you can see that it does not spread here because of this. It does not spread here because of this. But it does spread here because those are 7 blocks up. We're going to be using that to our advantage here shortly. All right, now what we're going to want to do is actually get our stone generator installed. So what we're going to do is on floor level, 2 blocks past, well, actually, I guess 3 blocks past these little corner blocks that we put in. So 1, 2, and then 3. We're going to go ahead, wrong level, and put in 7 pistons across just like that, because that's going to be generating our lava. And then what we can do is we can actually go ahead and put glass here, because this is going to contain our lava in place. We're going to put glass here, glass here. It doesn't have to be glass. That's just what I'm using. I'm going to put some glass here just because I don't know why I always like to see stuff that's happening. So we're using that to see what's going on once we get everything in. We need a solid block to put down below as like a floor right here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of dropped in, and I'm going to put those down like this. And then if I want to cap it off with glass, which of course, me being me, I would love to, I'm going to go ahead and drop this here, drop this here. And that'll just keep any kind of water / lava from getting out. And really, if I wanted to, I'm going to go ahead and put it here and here too. Next thing you could do once you've kind of trapped everything in, you're going to want to go ahead and waterlog all of these. So just start grabbing some water and then waterlog each of the pistons. This is something unique that we can do on Bedrock Edition that cannot be done if you're a Java player right now. Although how's that getting out? Oh, I didn't put anything on the edge of the piston. So don't forget to do that so you don't spill water everywhere. But yeah, you can't do this on Java Edition quite yet. Hopefully at some point you guys will be able to do that. So to get a good stone generator, you may want to check out a design by, somebody like Il Mango or somebody else in the Java community that has such devices available. Then what we can do is we can take one piece of lava, one little piece, and just throw it like right in the middle. And then it will spread itself out across the top there. And then if you want to keep yourself from probably dying like I would, then we'll go ahead and we'll just put some glass above that too. Now we can't fall in on it accidentally, and we need access to the backside of those pistons. So I'm going to dig out just a little bit of space behind it. So next we're going to make an etho hopper clock here. This is the Bedrock version of it, which is only slightly different than the Java version, but we're going to face two hoppers towards each other. We're going to face comparators out from each one of those. We'll put a couple of solid blocks of some sort that I've put all away and I need to get more. Put a solid block here, put some redstone dust on top of those, face a hopper inside from each one of those, bam, bam, and put a redstone block. And we have an etho hopper clock. Now, we need to take a signal from this etho hopper clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a block right there. I'm going to put a piece of redstone dust right here. And one more piece of redstone. No. Let's put a hopper. No, we are going to have to do another redstone dust. Okay, so let's do, because we need this to be pointing an actual direction. So we're going to do this here. We're going to face this way like this. We will put another block right here. And we will have a comparator reading out of that. Now we could put a piece of gravel right here, and then what you're going to see, this is a rising edge monostable circuit. So if I put, I don't know, this in here, right? You see us go back and forth. You see how it is triggering off that right there, which is perfect. That's what we want to do. Next, we're just going to take this signal. We're going to run it on over this way. Hopefully it makes it the whole way across. Let's do a quick test. Let me throw a couple of items in here so it doesn't trigger off so quickly. Yes, it does. Okay. So now we actually effectively have our stone generator done, right? So if I were to say, I don't know, like break this, right? It's going to get filled in. For now, though, we can turn this off, and I can do that by just breaking a piece of redstone. Is fine. Okay, so we need to be able to trigger this to dispense the bone meal. So I got myself a little bit of extra space here. I needed one extra block above. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna place a temporary block there. We're gonna face an observer, and an observer, and they're gonna be facing down into this block that's beside the dispenser, because we also need a way to get bone meal into the dispenser too. And we can do that by just putting a hopper right here, and we'll create a contraption later to automatically feed bone meal into this. For now, we do not need that. The next thing we need to do is we need to build a locked etho hopper clock. So it's the same clock design as down there, but we need it to stay locked. So what I'm doing is I'm just stair-stepping up a redstone signal to come up, and we're going to bring it in line like one block above our moss block there. And this part's kind of flexible. You could put this wherever you feel like you may want to put it, but as long as you put it outside of the little area right here so you don't block any kind of moss spreadage, then you're going to be fine. And don't worry, we're going to be getting rid of these blocks here soon. I just put them there temporarily to take a look at some things. So if we want to do what I'm saying that we want to do, what we need to do, that's a lot of do's. What we need to do is we actually need to incorporate a torch, and we're going to build a hopper clock beside it. So actually, what I'll do is I'll come up one more right here, put a block right here, and let's just actually like pull our redstone up now so we can kind of see that happening. It's going to come up, it's going to come over, it's going to end right there. And then we're going to put a torch right here. And then we just need the hoppers of the new etho hopper clock to be right here. And they can stretch off in either direction. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a torch here, or a hopper here, a hopper here. I'm going to build my hopper clock right here in this location. And there we go. So we don't need to do anything with that yet. It's just the same hopper clock down below with a torch beside it. And we are going to do something similar to what we did down below, where we are going to pull a redstone signal off of this, kind of like so. And then we will incorporate another rising edge monostable circuit. And we'll pull a redstone comparator out of that. And now we can snag this signal just like we were able to do down there. Now we got to take that signal somewhere. And I'm using wool just because it's going to make it easier for me to kind of tell what is like actual redstone line with stuff in it and what isn't. But now we're going to need first, before we bring this signal out, we're going to add in one final component. And that component is another dispenser, because we're going to need a way to collect the all the moss, because as of right now, it's just going to kind of pop up like in this area and then just sit there. So we actually need to wash it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dispenser. I'm going to actually plug it right here beside the piston. I think that side will work. And we're going to put a water bucket in it. And then we're going to find a way to trigger that thing off in a way that's going to be able to flush all of our stuff down here as often as we need it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the wool across here, and we need to get to that so I can have it come up here. And we also need to get to this piston right here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go there just like that as well. And we could just take redstone dust. I don't think I put redstone dust up there yet. You need a piece of redstone dust on top. So we get myself a little bit of space on top of this observer. You also need it to go across here so it triggers off that piston. We got to connect it over. I cut myself a hole in like the ceiling here just temporarily so I can get around. I didn't leave myself a lot of space to work. The next thing and last thing we need to do is we need to be able to trigger this off, and we need to do things in a certain order. The first thing we want to happen is for this piston to push down, because that's going to clear our block so it can get bone mealed. Second thing that needs to happen is the bone meal needs to be dispensed. And then the third thing that needs to happen is the water needs to be dispensed for a certain period of time to wash everything away. So we kind of already have this part done, because observers do add a delay. So right now we have a signal that'll come through. It's going to hit the observers and the piston at the same time, but since it's going to add a like 3-tick delay because of the observers having to send a signal down as opposed to no delay with the piston, our timing's going to work out perfectly with that. But what we need to do is we need to build in a way for our timing to work with this. And the easiest way that I could figure out to do it was to actually, and I'm going to just kind of like pillar myself over here a bit. I'm going to grab an observer here. And we want to trigger this off without also triggering that off. So we're going to do that by placing a solid block here. We can use the wool block. And then we need to push an observer into that. So we can actually have an observer facing this way, and which means we need a piston, a sticky piston right there. I did not grab sticky pistons. We'll place a temporary block right here. We'll go ahead and we'll put a sticky piston facing this way. So now let's do a little bit of a demonstration, I think. We're going to need to go over this way, and we're going to put a piece of redstone dust right here. And I have already figured out I don't have repeaters, so now I need to go get that. And I've already figured out how long we need this water dispenser to be on. And I will also explain that to you here as we get ready to do our first demonstration. So I'm just going to briefly show you guys how this is going to work. So what's going to happen when I power this, it's going to send a signal. It's going to first move that piston. It's going to then dispense this bone meal because it's going to send the signal down that observer tower. And then because this has a little bit of a delay to it, at the end, it will send off this piston, which will move this observer right here and will dispense this water right there. And one more piece I almost forgot. We need to take this redstone here and we need to extend it across here so it actually gets on the water dispenser too. So let me walk you through the process before I give you a demonstration. What's going to happen is redstone signal is going to come through. It's going to first go here. It's going to push that piston down. It's going to break any grass, moss, whatever that's there. It's also going to dispense out water. Water is going to start falling down. It is also going to send a signal to this observer chain right here that's going to point down. It's going to send a signal and dispense the bone meal. Bone meal is going to get dispensed onto there. That's going to spread our bone meal or our moss down at the bottom. And then also at the same time, we have these repeaters right here, which are on a very short delay. This is 6 ticks. Every time you click this is a 1-tick delay. We're going to put that one on 3. This one's on 3. So that'll time it out to where this, after 6 ticks, will push this observer out this way, which will then pull this water back into that dispenser after it's had long enough to fall down and move all the stuff out of its way. Let's go ahead and let's show that now. I do a quick flick of the lever here, and it looks like timing on servers is maybe a little bit different, which I kind of expected. So what we could do is maybe just extend that out a little bit longer. And yes, that got us water that is going long enough to push everything down. I have a piece of bone meal there now, so you'll see the bone meal spread down there onto that. and then the water will then get sucked back up. See? And then that would wash it all away. Now we need to tie in the last component, which is turning this on and turning this on. We need a certain amount of items in each one because the whole point of these clocks is to give us the right timing for everything. So I've already calculated for this one that we need to have a total of 5 items in here. Any item will work fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down bottom, we need a total of 3 items, which we do have there too. So we can start this back up by turning this on, and 2 things are going to happen. Every single time that that one down there kind of ticks and goes off, it's also going to allow 1 item to pass through here. So as you can see, it's letting out 1, 2, 3, and so on. What happens is when this gets to 5, this is allowed to shift over, allowing this to go off, which is kind of triggering off the whole thing that's happening up here. So every 5 items that go through this whole system will kind of like do its thing 1 time. And I can go ahead and replace the dust there. That way it's actually able to do that. So now the last component to this should be, if I put some bone meal in here, and this is the last component to get it functional, but we still have some more parts to do to add in some added functionality or extra functionality. But if I take a stack of bone meal, and I take that stack of bone meal and I put it right in this dispenser, what we should see happen is we have moss there. This is actually pushing the stone blocks into the moss that's created and breaking it. And then after, I think every five like pushes of this, it's then going to dispense new. And it's going to do the process over and over again. That water is actually going to fall down. It's going to push this moss into the corners, which is right where, if you guys remember from earlier, we set up that minecart track. So we'll actually have a hopper minecart that's doing circles down there. And we'll actually be going underneath all of these corners, just like this, and it'll be collecting all of the moss. Don't worry about the fact that you see moss hanging out on the middle. That kind of happens as this system kind of works. As long as it stays on, any moss in the middle, every 5 dispenses there or whatever, will automatically get pushed over to the edges so that way it can be collected. So there is no waste at all with this system. So now that we've actually created the moss, and if you wanted to stop here, let's say you don't care about converting the moss over to bone meal, you can stop right here. All you would need to do is get a hopper minecart going, which I can do now. And if I drop down below here, I put the hopper minecart right here, give it a little push. It's just going to infinitely go into circles, and then it's gonna send everything to this middle hopper right here on this side, this middle hopper right here on this side, and then you could, start to hook chests and that sort of thing up to that to be able to just collect all of your items, throw item sorter down there. You could call it done if that's all you need is moss. And really, that's probably all I need because I have like a million different ways to get bone meal, but I know you guys like to use bone meal or use these moss farms to make an infinite amount of bone meal. It's just a bone meal making machine. This thing will actually make 2.5 bone meal for every 1 bone meal that you use. It's pretty efficient. So if I put 1 stack of bone meal in there, by the time everything's done, if I run it all into a composter, I will have 2.5 stacks, roughly, a little bit more than that, of bone meal in return, meaning we can let this thing run forever, collect bone meal, and even better, if we really play it smart, we don't need to have a huge amount of bone meal stored, just enough to feed into the dispenser. So once we have some bone meal in there, we can then just save all the rest of the moss. Or if we want to have a lot of bone meal in supply, we can create however many chests of bone meal that we need to. And then after those chests are full, we can then have all of the items go out and then go into storage for moss, which is really what I want this for. I want it more for moss than the bone meal. So what exactly do we need to do? Well, we need to get the items from down there to up here. We need to knock down torches because I think I just knocked one down. Items from down bottom to up top. We need to get some items to convert over to bone meal. And we need to get other items to, I guess we'll probably just use the same storage system that we have. And I'll just tap into that. And it's just a basic item sorter. If you need to see what I did with that, you can go back to the original Moss Farm episode. But if we drop down here, we're going to have items here and here. And I think I know what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hoppers together, and we're going to do that in a center point, I guess on this block right here. into a dropper. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take one set of hoppers into the side and the other into the side like this. So I can just go take that over and then bring that down. And yep, that's loading our dropper. And then I can do the same thing with this, bringing our items into here. Now we have them coming in at double hopper speed. And we can actually make this work at double hopper speed too. We'll put a block right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a redstone comparator. We're going to put a repeater. We're going to put another redstone comparator. And we're going to do a loop of redstone. And that'll make it so anytime there is either one item or it's full of items, it doesn't matter. It will always tick at this really fast speed. We could put a redstone dust right there, a repeater right here. And then as you can see, it will kick them out ultra fast. I'm going to go ahead and unhook that for now because we need to first get this going somewhere. All right, this took a little bit of figuring out, and I'm going to show you why here in a moment, but we ended up kind of taking a left-hand turn here and going up a water stream that way. The reason why is the setup that you have to use. So right up there in line with like the line of ice that the items are going to be traveling down, we have a hopper right there. I'm not going to knock it out because it's going to throw water everywhere. But we have a hopper right there facing down into the composter. And then you have to have a hopper underneath the composter. So you have to have basically this 3 tall little tower to do the composting. And if I were to bring it over in that spot where I would like really wanted to do it, there's actually like it's above ground. It would go above ground there and still like be able to reach my setup over here. So just to kind of make things work a little bit better, we ran it over here. In any event, this is the way that this thing's going to work. Okay. So our items are going to be flowing down through here. They're going to hit the hoppers above the composter and get shot down into the composter. The composter is then going to automatically compost those things and send them the bone meal into the dispenser here. Now it's going to continue to do that until all of these hoppers are full with bone meal. Once all the hoppers are full of bone meal, the composter won't take any new bone meal except for when it needs to. Whenever it uses whenever it uses a piece of bone meal, then it'll allow another one to come through. So basically what's going to end up happening is the system's going to backlog and fill up. If I ever need to get bone meal separately, I could come here and get it. You guys might do a setup where you have like a chest or something that it goes into, right? And then you can have access to that chest. I don't really need it because I have all the bone meal I'm ever going to need. But that's basically the setup that you're going to do. So if I go down below, plug this guy back up, as you can see, it's going to shoot all those items over there. I'm also going to go ahead and turn this on, which I put a lever in for. I forgot about. Flick the lever to turn it on. And yep, there it goes. Work my way up here. You can hear the composter working. And if I look in here, you'll see every couple seconds that it's going to send a new piece of bone meal down. And then eventually that bone meal is going to get clogged up in here or get accumulated up in here, and it's going to make again about 2.5 bone meal for every 1 bone meal it uses. So will it take a little while for it to like actually like finish or use it all? Yes, but since we're collecting it so fast and you can hear that like dispenser, that dropper shooting items out so quickly, it's still going to make its way over here in terms of some of the items. So that way we can still go through and collect them as they go through, because that hopper is not going to be able to suck them all up quick enough. There we go. It's not going to be able to suck them all up quick enough because it's all going way too fast. The hopper can't keep up. And with just how big of a mess that is, I'm not really going to mess with it anymore. Honestly, I don't need this up here anymore either. So I guess I should take this apart, fill that area in. We'll leave the access door here, so just in case I need to get in and do things or come, maybe I just want to come look at it because some farms are just fun to watch. We can come take a look at it, I guess. But yeah, looks like everything here is working as intended, and I hope you guys enjoy all the bone meal and the moss. And I do think that's going to do it for this episode. So I appreciate everybody hanging out today. Hopefully you find great use from this farm. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. About 50 to 60% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. If you want to help get this video seen by more people, clicking the like button, commenting, and clicking the share button, all are things that YouTube Analytics picks up to make it so they recommend the video to more people. So it helps out quite a bit if you click any of those too. So please do, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!